welcome aboard. My name is Daniel, I will be your crew for today, and our wonderful skipper is Andrew. Just a few safety announcements as we get going here. We've got firefighting equipment and emergency exits at the front and back of the boat. Life-saving equipment on top of the boat as well. It is rare that we have to use them twice in one day though. Just a joke, of course. Please remain seated for the duration of our journey and do take extra care if you're putting hands or phones out of the windows. So today we are journeying down the Regent's Canal. It was built between 1812 to 1820, in particular by the Irish navigators, who were also called the navvies. The Regent's Canal was primarily built for cargo purposes, so cargo boats transporting, in particular, coal, wood and steel. Perseus, the boat that we're on, was built in 1935 as a coal cargo boat, and she was built by Harland and Wolff, the same people who built the Titanic. No worries, despite the weather, we are very unlikely to encounter any icebergs today. We start our journey in the lovely Little Venice in Maida Vale, and these boats that we're going to be passing on our left and right are houseboats, so people live aboard these all year round. The boats in this location have permanent moorings here, so that's like a permanent parking spot. Of course, they can travel up and down the canals when they like and return to their spot here, but you do tend to find most of them just stay here. Our trip today will take us from Little Venice through parts of Marylebone, Regent's Park, Primrose Hill, and then finally into Camden Market in Camden Town.
That has a bit of sort of water damage, but not to do with the canal, which is, it's all confusing. Yeah, quite cheap. Yeah, so a lot of this would have been built up during the Regency period as well. So with the canal being built, a lot of this area was built up because not particularly nice.
We've got quite a few famous faces that live in the Maida Vale area nowadays, such as Noel Gallagher of Oasis, Paul Weller of the Jam and the Style Council, as well as the singer Lulu. The house to our right, which is partially covered in ivy, that is One Park Place Villas, and is currently owned by Bill Kenwright, the director and chairman of Everton Football Club. A previous owner of that house was Michael Flatley, the creator of River Arts, and before that it was owned by Joe Cocker. I will certainly be leaving my hat on today. To our right hand side here is the Catholic Apostolic Church. However, we call this the secret church because we rarely see anyone go in or out. Despite the name, this is actually not associated with the Catholic Church. It is a Protestant denomination. The church is open only twice around Christmas time, so in a couple of weeks for Mass, and even then entrance is only permitted for selected families. A quote from one of the skippers that works for us on the London Water Bus is that when people arrive at the church, they do so in very expensive cars and with strange looking children. And from where you boarded the boat today was the footpath. And we'll see people walking up and down it on our left-hand side for the duration of our journey. Historically, this was called the towpath, as before canal boats had engines, they would have been towed along by horses. So the horses would walk along this path, pulling the boat and all of its cargo along. Currently ahead of us is the Maida Hill Tunnel. It is 248 metres long, and when we get a bit closer, you'll notice that there isn't a path through the tunnel. So the horses wouldn't be able to go through and pull the boat. Instead, they would be taken up and over to the other side. To get the boat through the tunnel, the crew would have planks of wood that would go out to either side of the boat. They would lie down on these planks of wood with their legs to the side or in the air, and then they would walk along the tunnel roof and walls using their leg strength to move the boat and all of its cargo through, in a process that was known as legging. And that's where we get the phrase legging it from as well. It would take them around half an hour or longer to leg through this particular tunnel. Nowadays with our engine, it should take us roughly 3 minutes. We've made it through the Maida Hill Tunnel, passing underneath the Edgware Road, and now we are into Lissom Grove, which is in Marylebone, and you can see that the path continues once again on our left-hand side here. Other boats may have also extended through their engine rooms as opposed to building on top of their boats. Up and to our left-hand side is the St John's Wood Power Substation, which has been voted one of London's ugliest buildings. It does, however, supply electrical power to West and North West London, as well as allegedly to the Houses of Parliament. That might be why there's so many security cameras. And you may notice the red wall on the left. You can see these arch indentations. So that is where the stables used to be that was attached to the coal depot here. Around 200 horses were stabled here, and the cargo boats passing through would have rented them out for a fee. The steam engine was invented in the 1800s, but it wasn't commercially available until the 1900s. Canal cargo boats would still use horses to tow them along well into the 20th century. The last recorded case outside of a historical reenactment was actually in the 1960s. So we've left the Marylebone Wide and we're going to pass under the 3 railway bridges ahead of us. These connect national rail services from Marylebone Station as well as the Underground Metropolitan line. And please do be warned, there are a gang of pigeons that live under these bridges. Try not to make eye contact with them. They have been known to fly aboard and ask if you have any bread. So we've now entered the northwestern side of Regent's Park, and we're going to have some private homes and gardens here. On our left-hand side are the private gardens of Grove House, the 3rd largest private gardens in London. We'll pass Grove House itself in a short while. For now, if you look to the right, that first building you can see is Hanover Lodge, a privately owned home built in 1827. The next buildings we'll be passing on the right-hand side are going to be 6 different mansion villas. They were built between 1988 to 2004 by Sir Quinlan Terry. Each is built in a different architectural style, and every single one is owned by the Crown. We're passing our sister boat, the Alfred Leroy, on our left-hand side here, built in 1975 and named after a Belgian pub landlord. So the mansion villas on the right are leased out in particular to the American government, and that's because just behind the mansion villas, sadly we can't see it, is a place called Winfield House, which is where the American ambassador lives. And now behind us on the left, that is Grove House, built in 1822 and last purchased in 1987 for £45 million by the Sultan of Oman. The red apartment buildings you can see up and to the left there, they are separate from Grove House, but they do get to overlook the gardens. They are on Prince Albert Road. And we're now approaching the Macclesfield Bridge and we'll be passing under it shortly. To locals, this is known as the Blow-Up Bridge, and the reason for that name is that on the 2nd of October in 1874, the previous version of this bridge was completely destroyed when a barge called the Tilbury was passing underneath, carrying various cargo such as coffee, dates, nuts, 5 tons of gunpowder, petroleum, and somehow those last 2 sparked, ignited and exploded. The leading theory is that a crew member lit a match to light a cigarette, and instead of putting it out safely, they flicked it onto where the cargo was being held, destroying the boat, the crew, and the entire bridge. Now is a great time to remind everyone that smoking kills. So we've now actually entered London Zoo. First opened to the public in 1847. We're in the Africa section of London Zoo, and typically these enclosures that we've got on the right, we should be able to see the animals that live there. I will be honest, because it is quite cold weather and these animals are native to Africa, they might not enjoy the weather too much. But this enclosure on the right is home to 8 African hunting dogs. They are also known as painted dogs or painted wolves. And the lovely enclosure coming up on our left is the Snowdon Aviary. So normally this houses birds, but it has been repurposed this year to house Colobus monkeys. And they arrived in summer, and there's around 20 of them. Although once again, I imagine they're inside at the moment. Our horn just to alert other boats to our presence, as they wouldn't be able to see us, but they can hear our horn plenty in advance. Currently ahead of us is the Feng Shang Princess, a 3-tiered red pagoda boat that is a Chinese restaurant. When we make the left turn here, you'll be able to get a good view of it on our right hand side. Bit of ice on the mud over slides. They built that 30 years ago. It used to be just the size of this. And then 20 years ago they cemented it to the bottom of the canal. I mean, it's been there 20 years, it's really successful. On our left here is St Mark's Church, which was built in 1857. They run a lovely cafe here on the weekends, which raises money for local charities. And we've also left Regent's Park. We're now in the neighbourhoods that surround Primrose Hill. So the moorings in Mayfair. So most people will be renting out from the houses that we're going to be passing on our right-hand side for this next stretch of the canal are on St Mark's Crescent. It's one of the few places along the canal where they own both the home and also a mooring for their boat. In most locations, you can only get one or the other. And we're passing some houseboats to our left called continuous cruisers, because they're allowed to be in this location for 1 week for free. After that, they can move on to a different continuous cruiser location, and if they stay, they'll have to pay a daily charge. Some of them do find it worth it to stay in this location and pay that, but most of them live more of a nomadic lifestyle. We're passing two houses to the right with these white fences. If you look at the balcony of the second one along, you'll be able to see Daisy the cow, a life-size cow model. Daisy greatly enjoys the summer months. In the last few weeks, she has gotten a bit Frisian. Ahead of us on the right here is the Pirate Castle. This was established in 1966 by Lord St David's to provide disadvantaged children access to water sports. A wonderful service they continue to this day as a registered charity. And we're now entering into Camden. You know you're in Camden because the graffiti starts to get a bit more colourful, as do the smells. The building on the left here is Henson House, named after Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets. He had a workshop here on the top floor from the late 1960s, where a lot of your favourite Muppets would have been made. Also the puppet for Yoda in the original Star Wars films that was made there as well. The white building on the right hand side is Gilby House, previously known as Gilby Gin Warehouse. This used to store over 500,000 bottles of gin. Nowadays, however, there is no more gin, just apartments. And we've got a lovely red brick building coming up on our left-hand side. This is the Interchange Warehouse. Historically, Camden was a very important location for cargo boats to load and unload their cargo, and many of them would have done it here through the tunnel on the left. And we're also about to make our final turn into our mooring location in Camden Market, which means that our journey is almost over. If you enjoyed your trip today, please leave us a review on TripAdvisor, and if you're feeling extra generous, we've got a tip watering can at the front as well. My name is Daniel, I've been your crew for today, and our wonderful skipper has been Andrew. Please remain seated as we finish tying up the boat, and I'll let you know once it's safe to come off board. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your day in and around Camden.